Good evening, everyone. My name is Ishani. I'm one of the trainers at Ivy Professional School. And in this month's boot camp, we thought of doing a project on the space missions based on our success in Chandrayaan project. So today we are going to use a BI tool which is called Tableau to accomplish that. Anyone who knows about Tableau? Anyone who's worked on Tableau knows about Tableau? Okay, Rishikesh. Some of you don't have any ideas. That's okay. And have you guys downloaded Tableau? Harshit, that's absolutely correct. It's a data visualization tool. Some of you have, some of you not. That's okay. Harshit, you can download something called Tableau Public, which is absolutely free of cost. And, once you've attended this session, what I would really love everyone to do with it, I'm going to give you the data set. I'll give you all the design elements that you see on this dashboard, the background, all the images, for example, these are all images that I've used, the circles, the background to fade the thing. So all these things I'm going to provide to you so that you can recreate it. And this video will be available for you. All right. So first and foremost, let's get started with sharing some files with you. So over here, I'm sending you a Google link. What you will be getting over here is, like I said, there are a bunch of backdrops that I've used. There's a final output of how the the dashboard is going to look like. This is the space mission.csv is the data set, data dictionaries to help you understand the data set. So for now, what I would want you to do is download it, export it, like get it out of the zip folders, and then be ready with me. In today's boot camp, just to make you aware of what all you'll be learning, I know some of you are very new to Tableau. So we will start with basic thing as connecting with the data. Then we will start with creating some basic data transformation, not heavy duty, we just have 1 hour. So basic data transformation. Then we'll learn how to create visuals in Tableau. We'll learn how to do something called grouping. We will learn how to create KPI cards. And we will learn also about a calculated field, how do we work with it, and bins and table calculations. A whole lot of things you guys are going to learn in today's bootcamp. And then we'll get into the design part of the dashboard where we will be setting up the backdrop and so on and so forth. So quite a bit to be covered. Now, I am not going to go in the depth of any of the topics that I've put over here. We will be learning these topics based on the final dashboard that we're trying to get. Right? So let's get started. First and foremost thing is when we open Tableau, this BI tool or any BI tool for that matter really doesn't store the data in it, stores in the memory of it, yes, but doesn't really store the data. What it does, it is going to ask you for connection of the data source. Since I have a CSV file, which is the file type? So first thing you have to do is tell which file type it is. So CSV is which file type? CSV, comma, separated values. Which file type is it? These are the text files. So it's important, first of all, to understand what data do you have, what type of data do you have with which you're going to start working. So I'm going to click on text file and then it's taking me to the folder where I was working. And this is the data set that I have called space missions. So I'm going to select and open it. Once you open, this is the very first thing that you will be seeing. Now, one thing, since these two CSV file of data dictionary and the CSV main file were kept in one single folder, what Tableau does, it has a tendency of pulling them both over here. And what it has also done, gone ahead and dropped one table for me. So let me do one thing for the people who are doing Tableau for the first time. When you connect to a data set and it have multiple files or it has multiple tables in it, the first and foremost thing is that we need to drag a table on which we want to work. So over here, this is the file in which we are going to work. So I'm going to drag and drop it over here. Right? So once I drag and drop it over here, this is the first sheet that you work in Tableau called data source. What is the purpose of data source? The purpose of data source is to be able to understand the data and to understand if Tableau has recognized the data types correctly or not. So over here, you have the, what we call as the metadata of the table, which tells us what is the data type, what is the name of the field, which table it is picking it from, right? So you can see companies taken as a alphabet, text, location is the text, date is taken as a calendar, there is a time that is taken as date and time. Then we have the name of the rocket, the name of the mission, the rocket status. These are all ABC, means it is being taken as a text. And then we have got something called price. I can close it. It's not necessary to look at all the time the table details. I can look at the data types up over here in the data source part. Connecting would be, I'll do it again. I'm just going to remove it. Once you're adding the file, like from this screen, the first screen, you're going to select text file, and then you're going to select the file that I gave to you. Sounds good, Peter? Once you've done that, the next step is going to be to pull this table into this area of drag tables. Those who have Tableau, have you been able to connect to the data part? Can we download it from Anaconda? No, you can't download it from Anaconda. Peter, were you able to get it? Akanksha is ready with it. Saikiran, what about you? Rishikesh? Manali, Poshumi is ready. Manushri, Rishikesh, Peter. All right, done. Now, what we are trying to do, let's look at the data in the format that we all understand easily, which is Excel. So this is the original data that I had. Text files, CSV files can also be opened in Excel format. So what is the information we have? We have the information about which company we're talking about satellites, we are talking about missions and rockets being launched in the space. So which company's mission was it? What was the location of the launch? So typically, the company is going to belong to the country in which it is launched. Then we have something called a launch date, launch time, which rocket was it, which mission was it, whether the rocket is still active, did it get retired, what was the price of the mission, and whether the mission is successful or was a failure. Right? So we can analyze a lot of things, but whenever you do a dashboard, I always keep telling everyone that you have to focus on what exactly you want to do. Okay. If you try to build everything from every possible column that you have, then the problem that we face is typically that there's too much going on. I just wanted to share this, not getting the chat. 1 second. Okay. Not able to share it over there. Anyways, so don't be all over the place and try to plot everything possible. Now, what I've done is I've not considered time, because in some places time is given, some places time is not given. I don't think there's any correlation between the time it was launched, whether it was successful, not successful. So that's why we discarded this column completely. To keep this seminar simple for 1 hour, I have also discounted the name of the rockets and the missions. So in depth, we could have spoken about which missions were successful in a certain decade. And what I worked with is how many companies are there in this entire space mission, which countries are active in the space mission, decade wise, since there are a lot of years given 1957 to 2022. So if I sit and analyze each and every year, it's going to be difficult. So I've done an analysis based on the decade, and I have understood that, okay, so many rockets were launched, how many are active, how many died down. Mission wise, what was the success in each decade and what was the failure. So all the money that we are putting in this space mission, is it really worth it or not? Are we even able to launch a rocket correctly or not? Okay, any question in the data set? Any questions that you guys have in the data set? All good? Price I'm not taken. The reason I'm not taken the price, I'll tell you, is because price came into existence. This column got recorded after many years, right? So if we were doing a case study on, let's say, like anything in the last decade, then yes, the price is given. But most of the places, price is not given. So out of, I don't know how many, out of about 4,633,000 something, prizes are not given, right? So since more than 30% of the data was missing, I discounted it from my study completely, because what we are talking about is history of space mission. So if we were talking about current space missions, then I would have kept it and taken the relevant years out of it. But since our topic today, or my dashboard main theme, is history of the space mission, so we want to talk about historically what has been happening. Okay, now what I have over here, I have got the KPI cards, which is how many companies are operating. About 62 companies are operating. We have launched so far 370 rockets. Total missions that we have had is 4,556. 22 countries are involved in the space mission. What are the top countries with most launches? USA, Russia, Kazakhstan, kind of, it is going to be under USA, Russia, then China, France, and then India is up over here. Out of all the launches, 90% was successful, 10% failure. Looks good, right? And then, like I said, instead of analyzing each and every year, I did a decade thing. And in each decade, we can see after 1960, when we started with 1970s, we have been pretty much successful. We have got a success rate about 93% on an average of success, and the failures are less than 10%. Right? Then moving on, what else we have got on this dashboard? We have the active versus retired rockets in each decade. So again, you can see whatever rockets we had launched in 1950 to 1970, all these are retired now. They are not active anymore. From 1980 also, very few, it's a very tiny chunk of the rockets which are active, but mostly active are starting from 2010, and 2020 to 2022 is where the maximum is. Then again, a very interesting thing that I wanted to understand was who are the main dominant players. Now, right now, you hear about a lot of people, right? Who are the dominant companies? I'm sure you guys have heard about SpaceX also. So who were the dominant players? So if I look at the current decade of 2020 to 22, you can see CASC, which you will see it's a short form for China's space satellite mission, and SpaceX, which belongs to Elon Musk. in USA, these are the dominant ones. They have the highest number of missions. And if I go back, let's say 1980s, then the dominant was USSR. They are the one who, launched 426 mission, whereas nobody had touched even 100 of them. They dominated for quite a bit. 1990, a lot of players came in. 2000, game changed quite a bit, a lot of players. But till 1980, if you think about it, USSR was also pretty dominant in terms of superpower on the world. And after their division and everything happened, that's the time their downfall happened. So that is pretty evident over here also. In 1950 also, you will see USSR and US were the ones who started the missions first. 1960s, USSR, till 1960 to 1990, USSR played a very dominant role. So this is the end result of the entire study. Now let's see how we create it. Okay. So what are the main elements that I'm playing over here? First is the KPI cards, the big numbers, which tells me a overall story of what I want to understand. Since it's a history of space mission, we're going to talk about the companies, how many rockets, how many missions, how many companies, right? Then I have created a bar chart, and within this bar chart, there is a pie chart also sitting in the same space. Then I've created this stacked bar chart where I'm talking about percentage of success and failure. And if you see what I've done to keep my visuals little neat and clean, I have not used legends anywhere. I have played with the numbers to kind of do a visual mapping of what does failure, what does this color mean, what does this color mean. Same thing I've done in active and retired. It's a dashboard on Tableau, correct. This is a dashboard Tableau. Now, how do we create it? First and foremost thing in Tableau is that we have to prep the data and then start with single visualization. So we create one visualization at a time. Once all our visualizations are ready, then we go ahead and create a dashboard. Now, if you saw the first visualization in which I'm talking about country, but there is no column called country given to us. However, if we focus on location, you will recognize the end of the text is the name of the country. So I want to create a column called country. Now, how do we do that in Tableau? So I'm going to go back. I will go to location and I'll use a feature called custom split. So I don't want to split it into multiple columns. What my mission is to get only the last bit of it. So I'm going to use custom split. What is the separator or delimiter is a comma. And what do I want to split? I only want the last and I want single column. So once I click OK, you will see towards the very end, I've got a field which got created. And I can double click over here and name it country. First part done for everyone. We applied custom split on operations or location. And once we did that, over there, we said the delimiter is a comma. And we split it off by last because we don't want everything. We want the last one and one single column because I just want to generate a column of country. Clear? All right. So now that this is done, let's move to the sheets. Now, what are sheets? Sheets are the places where you create your visual. So one sheet, one visual in Tableau. You can't have multiple visuals in one sheet. One sheet, one visual. Let's start with the first visual where we said country-wise number of missions. So Tableau makes it very easy for us. What it does is whatever were the columns of your table, they are sitting over here on the right side. Sorry, left side. And what it also does, it divides, you see a thin line over here, it divides it into the top part, which is called as dimensions, and the bottom part, which are called as measures. Dimensions are our categorical data, which you typically plot on the axis of your charts, and the measures are typically the values which you tend to summarize, right? Now, the funny part is I only have price as a measure, and which I have discarded. I'm not going to use it. So how are we going to build all this? So let's see how we're going to do it. And in order to avoid confusion, if I'm not going to use anything, let's say I'm not going to use location, I can hide it. I'm not going to use time at all. I'm going to hide it. I'm not going to use price. I am going to go and hide it. So what is the result of it? This area looks neat and clean. We are only dealing with the fields that we want to work with. So if you recognize this, Tableau looks pretty much like a pivot table, where you have things like over here, I have row field, column field, value field, and filters, exactly like a pivot table. So just think about like you're creating a pivot and a chart along with it. That's it. And we don't have to really work very hard on drag and drop also. What we are going to do is double click, let Tableau do its magic, and then we rectify wherever it's not doing as per our need. So the very first is country. And I also want to see how many times this country name came, because the number of missions are related to the country. So I'm going to double click on country once again. Now, since both of them are text data sets, both of them created headers. But what I would like to do is one part of the country, and I'll pick the column. I want to convert it into a summarized value. So over here, how can you do it? I'm going to go click on the drop down. There is something called measure, and I'm going to say I'm going to count based on this. Now, is this chart looking good? Do you think this is how we can present the chart? No. Sorting is always good. So I'm going to sort the data. And again, there may be too many countries to talk about. Eventually, at the bottom, you see it's all thinning down. So rather than talking about all, let's talk about top 10. So over here, we're going to introduce the filter of top 10. Now, where do you go for that? We can go to the country, click on the drop down. We will see filter. And very nicely, Tableau has this nice feature of top. I can say by field, I want top 10 country count. And okay. So now I'm focusing only on the countries. Sorry, I have a bad throat. I'll clear it once again, Rishikesh. So country dropped once, country dropped twice. Pick the country in the column, went to the measures and did a count on it. Then we sorted it. And then now what we were doing is putting the filter on top of it. So top and by field and okay. Now in order to blend this chart with my work, I did few font changes, few color changes. So I'll just show you this formatting on one of the chart, because if we really spend a lot of time doing formatting of each and every chart, we might not be able to cover the dashboard completely. So things that I would do on every visual, since the theme or the color was that brightly or this color over here, right? So I wanted this color. So this, every time you want to put a color in Tableau, you work with the color card. So I'm going to click here, and this is the color I used. And let me see the hex code. If you guys are, so how do we put a new code? New color, we go to add custom color. In add custom color, over in this part, we put the hex code. So if anybody is doing it alongside, Let me put the hex code over here. Once you put the hex code, you will have this color. So that's what I did. I put the hex code, I put this color into the palette, and there you go. Can we all create this one? Once we know how to create one or two visuals, remaining part can be done easily. I've got two dones. All right. Once this is done, what are a few more things I would like to do? I am going to put some labels on top of my visuals. So for labels, you can use this T symbol on the very top. It puts the labels. And since I have the label, I want to get rid of this axis at the bottom. So right click, remove, show header. I also want to get rid of this country because my title itself will indicate that these are country names. So right click and hide the field label for the row. Then these lines that you see, very thin lines, very unnecessary for our visual. So for this, we are going to go to format. We will go to lines. And these are in columns. These are called grid lines. We are going to make it none. And I don't want the boxy feeling for my visual. So I'm also going to go to the axis ruler and make it none for both row and for column. So far, so good. You don't have to do the formatting with me. Just understand where I'm going so that it's easier for you. Now, if you have looked at the background, it's black. So if I leave things in black, nobody would be able to see it. So I had to change the font color, the label color, the title on the top, everything to a light, not exactly white, but it's a grayish tone. So how do we do it? Whatever you want to format in Tableau, select that. Okay, not like this. And format. On the left hand side, the formatting tool will open up. And over here, your format, font size, font, everything is given. I went over here and changed into the grayish tone. Similarly, selected my labels, format, changed them, field, this is the count of country, and I changed the field to gray. This is in the pane I have to do. So this. And on the title, same thing, selected the sheet. And the title I've given is, let's go back, top countries with most launches. So top countries with most launches. And I'm going to turn this also into a grayish color. So for now, the visibility is not great since we can't see it. But when you put it on your ultimately, the background of your dashboard, it will start to pop up because otherwise it won't show up. Okay. It's always nice to give a proper name to your sheets. The reason being, then when you're working in the dashboard, you know exactly which sheet to pick. So I'm just going to name it as simple as country. So I know the country's data is sitting over here. In any case, it shows ABC, ABC. Yes, ABC, ABC means it's a text, right? When you drop the country, then that's the time you're saying it's showing ABC at the middle. So what we did, Rishikesh, we went on the top where country was written and we said the measure is count. That's why it changed to count of country rather than doing ABC. Try to see if it worked. Rishikesh, did it work for you? All right. So this is our first visual. Let's move on to the second one. What you learned so far is a custom split and how to create a basic visual. Now let's move on to the next one, which is we have created this inside the launches only, that how many of these launches were not, these are for top 10, but out of all the launches, how many were successful, how many were failure. This is what? It's a pie chart. So we're going to create a pie chart and I named this sheet as success rate. What do I need in this? I need the mission status, right? Where it shows whether it was a failure, whether it was success, whether it was failure or partial or pre-launch failure. Correct? Again, what do I need? I need a count of it. So exactly what we did with countries, I'm going to repeat it for mission status. So I put both of them from the top and a count. So far, so good. Same process as what we did for country. For those of you probably who joined late, I've put the link for the drive. It not only has data set, but it has got the design elements also, so that you don't have to work very hard. You can use the design elements and create exactly the same dashboard. Now, when you look at my dashboard, do you see failure, partial failure, pre-launch failure? Do you see all these things? Or did I categorize into success and failure? Only success and failure. Failure is failure. I don't want that. So what I had to do, I had to use a feature of Tableau over here called grouping. What does grouping means? Taking some item of a field and combining the value of it. How do you do it? We are going to select all these items of failure, partial failure. You can press a control key for doing that. And as soon as you select, over here itself, you will get this symbol called group members. So use your control key to select the three things. As soon as you do that, this thing would pop up, and this is the grouping. So once you group, it is showing this as one and the success as secondary. Now, I don't want the name to be such big, so I can right click, I can edit the name and make it only failure. Let me know if this much is done. Right? Now the time to convert this bar chart into a pie chart. Typically, whenever you start with a visual, that combined failure part, is going to be, Rushikesh, are you working with me? You're working, right? I thought in between you told me you won't be able to work. Is it? Oh, that was Rani. You're working with me. Yeah. So that was, we had created a group. And if I delete it, yes. Okay, mission status, it was coming up like this. So I select it by pressing my control key one by one and grouped it. Once I grouped, right click, edit. Now, once we've got this thing, what do we want to do? Convert it into a pie chart. So by default, Tableau will always try to make a bar chart. Anytime you want to change the visualization, we have to go to this part in the right side called Show Me. So once we click on Show Me, it will show you what are the various visuals that you can create based on what you have dropped. Necessarily does not indicate that these are all good for your visualization. What is good for your visualization, only you can tell. So since we are looking for a pie chart, I'll click here and a pie chart got created. Again, what I want in the pie chart, number one, I'm going to change the colors. So now don't do this part with me. This you can follow with the video. Then I picked this blue color from Tableau Classic 20 palette and gave this color to success. So I want to keep everything positive like success, active, um, all these things with blue color. And I'm trying to put everything which is negative with the gray color. So that's the entire, on all my visuals, I've done this thing. So I'm going to apply an OK. And now only thing you have to understand in this is very important. So everybody focus here. Now, what we want is we want to show it as a percentage. Now, if I put my label on the top, like I did for the previous visual, I'll get the number 4,162, 468. But what I really want is the percentage. So how do I convert this number into a percentage is done with a concept in Tableau called table calculation. Think about table calculation as in your pivot table show value as, which helped us to do calculation within a same field. So I can go over here and over here you see at the very bottom, quick table calculation. If you have worked with pivots in Excel, you will tend to remember this. And the feature I've used in this table calculation is also percentage of total. As soon as I do that, it turns into a percentage. Now, I believe when we report, when we talk to people, we really don't say, I did 89.89 success and 10.11 failure. It's always good to understand which numbers should have decimals and which numbers does not need decimal. Like in this case, there's no reason for it. So again, what I'm going to do is right click, format, and exactly, pick a field. This is a field we want. And in the numbers part, in the pane part, pane is over here, right? This is the pane. In the pane part, I'm going to go to number, make it percentage and say I want 0. So automatically this changed. Another thing we want to do for the font, if you remember, we were making it grayed out. And on the top, the title, we are going to change it and gray it out. So the title I used is no title. Okay, perfect. No title at all. So I don't need the title. I can right click and I can hide the title. So my view number 2 also got created. Okay. Next. Now let's do this year-wise success versus failure. Now, another interesting feature that I'll introduce in this part is called binning. sometimes, especially when it comes to numbers, individually analyzing each and every number might not be able to give us a very good output in terms of results, right? Like we talk about this decade, this happened, or in this decade, this was the peaks of what we saw. And so typically our conversations is in terms of decades. So how did I convert it into a bin or a decade? So this is 1950 to 1960, it's a 60 to 70, 70 to 80, and so on and so forth. So let's go back over here. First of all, to create a bin, I would need a measure over here, and I don't have it. I need year. Year is a part of a date, right? So first and foremost thing I'll have to do is create a new field for Tableau. For my data set, create a new field. And that is called calculated field. So in calculated field, what we can do is click on the drop down, create calculated field. This I can create in sheet. I can also create in a data source. And in calculated field, first thing it is asking is name. Always try to give good names. And then the function or the formula which you're going to use in order to get it. Can you get it in custom split? I doubt it. I'm not sure. We can try. Never thought about it. Typically, when I work with dates, it's mostly that I try to do. So it's not there. Okay, there's your answer. It's not there. Because see, dates for computers is not stored with those hyphens, right? It is stored more in the format of a number, and hence it doesn't have a custom split in it. Shweta, you saw that, right? I went over here. There's no concept of custom split only over here. So I'm going to use my calculated field. Here, I'm going to use the function called year, and inside this, give the date. So functions in Tableau are blue, fields in Tableau are orange, and we are saying year is a function, date is a field. Correct? Easy. We click OK. It will convert into a number because it's year. It's a number component. Why would we? No, we don't see. Unnecessarily creating a lot of data in your raw data is never a good habit. Try to use functions, and whatever we need over here, we are getting it done. So why work in Excel? Because see, you have to also understand, Porshumi, that not every data source will open in Excel, right? CSV is an exception, it opens in Excel. But what if you had an Access database? What do you have a JSON file? What if you had a PDF file? Then what would you do? So have the habit of using a lot of functions to do your work, rather than working in the source and transforming the base. Base we don't transform, we transfer in our tools. Now, once your year is ready, when you click on the drop down and you go to create, you will see that we have got something called bins. Now, what are bins? Again, giving a reference of pivot table in Excel to you guys. Bins is grouping of pivot table. So if I go to bins, it'll ask me what is the size of your bin. We are going to make it as 10. Decade is 10. Click OK. And it created a new field for me called year bin. This is clear what I did. I created a new column called year using calculated field. And the formula I used over there was simply year function. And to the year function, I gave the date field. From there, went to the drop down, went to created bins, and we said the size of the bin is 10. Now that I've created a bin, I can utilize it. So I'm going to drop the bin. I will drop the number of missions. Now, understand this thing. Like I said, we don't have any measures to drop and summarize over here. So mostly you will have to drop a categorical data convert that categorical data from measure into a count. Right? I will not sort this data. This is year-wise data. It has a significant, it already has a sorting order. If I sort this data, I am going to get very jumbled up and the whole way of visualizing this data will go bad. Right? So now next, what is there? Let's go back. I didn't just plot how many missions were there. I was categorizing this mission into failure and success. So to categorize into failure and success, I need my mission groups. So I'm going to drop the group in the color. Okay. And now also it really didn't give what we wanted because it's not showing me in overall what was the percentage of success and failure. If I look at simple stack, I can see that yes, there were more failure and this is less failure, this is less failure, more. But overall, are we improving in our success rate or not? So once again, I'm going to use my mission, the count distinct, and put a calculation of percentage of total. It didn't work. Let's see what happened. We are going to go and edit. Going to do table across. Table across means percentage of a row. So percentage of total across the row, and we got our output. And then again, same way, we are going to put our percentage. So if it's not showing up by itself, I can bring this by pressing the control key. You have to press the control key whenever you want to use one field in multiple places in Tableau without recreating it. So I'm pressing control key and dragging it in this card called label. Okay, still not showing up. What happened? Let's see why it doesn't want to show up. And strange. Not showing up. Why? Let's give this headers. Show on. Okay. The area is less. That's why it was not showing up. So when I said overlap, it's working. So all it needs is a little more space. Just going to drag it down so that it gets more space. Labels are visible. And the same formatting. I don't want 2-digit decimal places. I don't want this to be there. And so on and so forth. Clear? Now I'm skipping all the formatting part so that we can complete our visuals. Is that okay with everyone? Like I said, formatting, you guys can take care of it in the later. Moving on. Next one we want to create is active versus retired rockets in each decade. So again, the decade thing that I did is going to help us. And all I want to do is active versus retired. I could have done it in the same way as percentage, but thought of showing a different visual. So this is your retired versus active. And what we want is year bins. We want the count of the rockets. And this is like common steps now that you have to do. Distinct count of the rockets. And now I want to distinguish this between retired and active. So which field is going to help me do that? Plus I've turned it around. How do you turn it around? You can use this swap. Manually you can move it or swap. Now which field will help me to color them differently? Rocket status. Very good. Rocket status where? In colors. Done. Next step, change the color combination. So I'm going to edit the colors And I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Going to classic 20, picking the blue color for the active one, and picking the gray color for the retired one so that my visuals look consistent. Then I can put the labels. Let's go there and put a label over here and done. Okay, same thing. We are going to get rid of this. We are going to get rid of a lot of things which are not required. This is not required. And do the formatting bit of colors, title, and so on and so forth. Good with this? Should I move on? Working is the same. Base step is exactly the same as success and failure. Once I've created a field, I don't have to do it anymore. Now let's come to another different visual that we have, which is this is called highlight table. Now, why I needed a highlight table? Let me tell you my thought process also in building it rather than just telling you what I built and how I built it. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to understand now this space mission is something that everybody is talking about, or a lot of countries are trying to get into it. So in my mind, I wanted to understand like who dominated the space in different decades. Like 1950s, we started it. So who were the pioneers who started this work? And now are the same pioneers still existing in the space, or over each decade there was a change? Right? Interesting thing to know who's dominating the space. So I started with okay, let me look at the companies, let me look at the years, right? And let me see the number of missions for each. So I dropped the company, I dropped the year, and I said, okay, let's look at the number of missions that each one has done. Is this helpful? Does it help me to get what I want? Absolutely not. So I was like, okay, let's change the visual, let's make a table. Now is it helpful? Now can you make sense out of it? You have to scroll a lot though. No. Then I was like, okay, each year not making sense. Let me remove this. Let me drop the pin. Little precise, easy to look at, but too much going on. Right? Then my next instinct was, I want to visualize it easier. It's a big table. Anytime I want to represent something as a table and it's a big visual, I will always try to use conditional formatting concept of Excel. And in this case, it's called highlight tables. So once I clicked, it kind of worked, but I don't want it in this fashion. So again, I went and swapped, got it. But what does this give me? The darker the color means more mission. The lighter the color means less mission. Now, when I scrolled to make sense out of what I'm looking at, one thing only I understood was that USSR company was very dominant in 60 and 70. Right? 60 to 70, 70 to 80, 80 to 90. 3 years, super dominant. These are where the darkest color are. But does that meet our objective? Does this table help you to understand in each year which company was the dominant one? It doesn't. It's too much data. No coloring is happening in year wise, and unfortunately does not happen. Unlike Excel, where you can put conditional formatting on each column, tab you can't. So then, next step I thought was, why should I visualize all the years together? I don't want to visualize all the years together. I'm going to pick one by one to make it easier for me to drive an insight from me. So what I did, I put the year in a filter. Okay. And okay. And then I said, show filter. Now, if anybody is doing with me this visual, I'll pause and I'll allow you to work with me because this visual is a little different than what we did previously. Let me know if you need time or can I move on? especially the guys who have Tableau installed. So Manali, Paushami, Shweta, Sumit, Tabriz, Kaustav, Rishikesh, Orko, with me. All right, move on. Perfect. So step one was filter. Oh, Shweta, you're listening. Okay. Step one was filter, and this came up. And then I'm going to change the filter setting to single value drop down because I don't have too much space to give to the ears. So I just want a small drop down to be there. So how did I achieve that? Click and single value drop down. Done. So in 1950, only these many companies were there. However, when you move to 1980, the number of companies increases. Then if you move to 1990, again it increases. So this was also a pain area, too much to look at. Then what did I do? I said, why do focus on? I want to understand who dominated. So just like I worked with a country, put a filter on top of it, I would put a filter on top of this also. So I went to the company, put filter, top, and let's say top 10 or top 5. Let's make top 5 and okay. Right? So overall, if you see, USSR still has the heaviest number, more than, large percentage. And then if I move to 2000, it changes. But am I getting 5? I had put top 5. Am I getting 5, guys? I'd put top 5, right? Ideally, I should get 5. I'm not. So there is an issue. Now, what is the issue? Each software has its own order of operation. Just like in mathematics, you learned BODMAS. Over here also there is order of operation. Now the way it's working is giving you top 10, top 5. Now if the name of the company happens to be in the year, it's showing you, otherwise not. So to make sure it's doing top 5 on the relevant year, I have to make this as a add to context. Now, what I'm doing using this is I'm mainly saying that first put the year, then do the top 10. First put the year and then do the top 10, right? So that's what we are doing over here. And I can put the dominant on the top. So this is your last visual. This is the dominant company. Dominant. Right? Now, the only thing left is the KPI. So I'll work with one KPI card. Rest, I'm sure you guys can create it. And then we'll move into the designing part of it. So if I wanted to find how many operating companies are there, again, you have to create a sheet for that. Operating companies. And the company, if you drop. Now, I just want a number. I don't want the name. I don't want anything. So all I have to do is, like we did in the previous parts, we did a count of it. I want a number, not a visual. So I'll go to show me and put a number. Then again, did a little bit of formatting, made it big size. I think I made it 22. Change the color. So that's change the size to about 22. KPI cards typically are supposed to be bigger. Change the color so it's visible and remove the title from here. That's it. All right, so far so good. Should we move on to the design part now? REST KPI is same way you can create it. Now for the design of the final thing, we have dashboard, this one. So once you click on the dashboard, First of all, what you need to do is, in order to work with the same background as me, we have to first put the dashboard size. First thing you have to do is decide what will be the size of the dashboard. It comes in various sizes. Sometimes people make wide, sometimes people make tall, depending on what you want to do. Peter, what you want me to repeat? How the dashboard came in? To select the dashboard, you just have to click on this icon over here. This one, if you click on it, this sheet opens up. Okay. First thing is the size. This is where the size is. I want all of you to change the size to PowerPoint 1600 to 900. 1600 to 900 is the size that I've used for my backdrop. Let me know when you're done. Done? Okay. Once you're done, make sure that you're on tiled. There's a difference between tiled. PowerPoint doesn't appear. In this, PowerPoint is not there under the size part. If you click on the drop down, it should be there. It's pretty standard stuff. Over here in the size. Did you find it? If not, what you can do, go to the size and just put the width as 1600 to 900. Okay. All right. Once this is done, we are going to use tile. Tile does what? It takes up the whole space. So with tile, I am going to drop an object which is called image. So objects are over here. The sheets you created are on the top. So first I need the backdrop. So this is through object image. Drag and drop. You see it is taking the entire space. Let it take. I'm going to fit in center. And I'm going to choose a backdrop. I've already sent the backdrop to you. It's called Space Mission Backdrop. And close and apply it. Did it appear? Just make sure it fits in. No white spaces around it. I'm going to send it again. I'm going to send you a Google Drive link where all the information is there regarding the data, whatever design elements I'm going to use, the backdrop, everything is there. Done? Okay. Let's start with one KPI card. If I tell you how to create one KPI card, I'm sure you will be able to create the other three. So for the KPI card, I've used another image, but now onwards, whatever image we drop, it has to be in floating mode so that we can move it around and place it where we want it, right? So again, I want to take an image, drop. This time it's going to be the circle. If you see, I've sent something called circle to you. And open. And okay. So this is the KPI card I've been using in this visual, the circle. So you can adjust the size, and with floating, you can move it around. So I'm going to put it on the top. Once done, now we are going to drop our visual. So only one KPI visual I've created is number of operating companies. So again, in floating mode, I'm going to drop it. From here, I'll get rid of the title. Now only the number is there. Make it a little smaller. And push it inside. Now the only problem is this white background. So right click, format, and in the background color, the shading part, the worksheet is white, make it none so that it blends with the background like this. Let me know if it's done. When we drag it, it made second tab. So how do we do it on one? Like you mean these are two different elements I dropped, right? How do I make it into one? I didn't make it into one. They're overlapping each other. You just have to, like this one is a second element. This is another element. I just dragged it manually. And when you drag, you got to use this part on the top. All right. Then what else we have? We have a text on the top called operating companies, because 62 doesn't mean anything. I have to tell you what is it, what does the number mean? So again, this is what we are going to still work in objects, and we are going to go to something called text. So I'm going to pick text in the floating mode, drop it, operating companies, select it, make it at least 14 and make it bold, make it grayish color and okay, and then push it on the top. Something like this. So this is how you're going to give. After history of space mission image. After this image, what you will do is convert, move from tile to floating, right? And the circle that we got is another object, not object, image. So from the object, you're going to drop the image once again. And this image is the circle that I've sent you guys. This is how you get the circle. And 62 is what? 62 is a sheet of operating companies. Clear? All right. Now let's apply and see how we're going to create a graph also over here. So first thing, let's do pick any one. Let's do it on countries. So I'm going to drop the country. You either drop the country or the background, either way. When I drop the country, oh, again, the background is still white. Same process, right click for the sheet background. Format for the sheet background, make it none so that it's visible. It is visible now. Okay. And I didn't like it. So if you see in my background, I still have that hazy thing so that my charts are still prominent and it's not getting lost in the background. So for this, just like we had created a circle, we also created a background shape for this. So to get the shape, once again, you're going to work with object, image, drop it, choose the image of box. Everything has been given to you. It's already pre-made for you guys. And then you just have to make sure you lay it over nicely. And there you go. Nice looking dashboard. Tableau is a little rough in terms of designing, not very well defined, but with little bit of help in terms of designing. In my case, I'm not the designer. I took help from one of my team members, and she helped me. I visualized it for her. She actually made my visualization convert into a beautiful backdrops and all the design elements. So there you go. And like this, we are going to create the rest of it. Not very tough, was it? Like I said, you guys learned a lot. 1 hour, power hour, in which you learned a lot of things about Tableau, not getting into depth of it or why and any other aspect of it. But at least now you can get your hands dirty with this data, create your first Tableau dashboard if you've not already created. And the best way to enter into analytics to be someone who people are approaching for advice or people are approaching for jobs, like giving you jobs, is to create portfolio. Last week also I had a webinar on which I spoke about the power of creating a portfolio, how important it is to get into the world of data analytics. And today we kind of created a portfolio project for us. So I would request everyone to utilize the seminar's knowledge. Backdrops are already given to you. Create your first dashboard, if not first, and nth number of dashboard, let's create it. Space is right now the hottest topic. Put the right keywords, tag Ivy, you can tag me if you want, and you should get a nice number of reviews on LinkedIn. So make sure you create it and you post it on LinkedIn. So I'm sending you my name. Let me quickly send you my LinkedIn profile as well. So if you want to get connected to me, or if you want to tag me, then you can easily do that. All right. So any questions you have regarding what we have done, I'll be more than happy to help you via LinkedIn. So I hope you guys have fun. I know I went overboard a little bit, but when I started, I didn't think I'm going to cover so many things. But every time my thing is to create a dashboard which has a relevance. If a dashboard does not have a relevance, if it doesn't have a story, then kind of no fun in doing that. So history of space mission, needed to know who's dominant, what are the success and failures, how many active and non-active, which are the dominant countries in terms of launches. So that's why I picked all these elements over here. See, portfolio projects, you can, when I say portfolio projects, I'm not sure I'm referring to any website, but I'm saying use LinkedIn. Because see, if you put it on one particular website, not everybody is going to that website. So whenever you create a portfolio project, do it on, display it on LinkedIn. Give the right keywords, tag the right people. And if you've taken inspiration from someone, if you've taken someone's video and then done it, tag those guys. And you will see a lot of people will have a visibility in it, right? Then you can use any website to keep your work and then put the links in your resume. Okay. So that's how you're going to create it. And whichever, like I have seen people done brilliant work in a tool of Excel in terms of visualization, Power BI or Tableau. See, When recruiter is going to look at your work, he is going to be least worried about you're good in Tableau or Power BI or Excel. In our visualization world, more important thing is how you're dealing with the data. Are you able to mix the topic and the data and then create it? And yes, definitely. If you can think of any other elements, you can add it. If you want to add on elements, you can do it. Just make sure design wise, layout wise, it is something which looks nice. Okay. You have to be consistent. So if you see in terms of design elements, in terms of color combinations, I have been very consistent. And this is what is going to be important for all of us. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me 1 hour of your time, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to linking with you on LinkedIn and hoping to see some nice dashboards on LinkedIn. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good night. Thank you.